But we can talk about the mug you got.
We can talk about this.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
A wonderful travel mug from Falcon Northwest, who, hearing my complaints about spilling coffee on the 100-yard jog over from the coffee machine, and concerned for our carpet cleaning bill, sent over a cool travel mug, which makes a lot of sense because it's.
But it's not cool. It keeps stuff hot.
These are awesome. I have an AMD one too, but I use that because I love it so much. So this could be the
that one has a nice chrome finish to it.
Chrome finish. It's a Yeti. It's like holy smokes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, that's serious. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Huh.
I mean,
I have a cool cup from the GTX 10 series launch for NVIDIA, where they had at the bar where they were having drinks and stuff. They were giving away cups that started out clear. When you pour it in, it turns green when it turns cold.
Nice.
What is it? Does it have ray tracing support?
Too soon.
I feel bad because Steve sent over that Gamers Nexus mug. I used it a couple times, but I would spill half of the contents trying to get from the other side of the building here, and then you'd only get like 3 ounces of coffee by the end.
Well,
are we ready?
We've got Giffany here. We got Lars from Denmark.
Hey,
we got
cool.
Alpha Stunna.
What's the weather like in Denmark?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Lenny from Nicaragua, probably completely different weather.
Oh, that's cool. But you know what I want to ask about Denmark?
What? What's up?
What happened in Denmark that you end up with like something's rotten there, like it's bad?
Wait, things are rotten in Denmark?
You've heard that saying?
It's a Shakespeare joke, man.
Really?
I went to public schools. I wouldn't know that. I just kind of wonder, like, there's always somebody like. Apparently, we've all heard the name Nimrod, right?
Yeah.
Nimrod used to be like,
it's the name of a Green Day album, right?
What?
Or was it a song?
No, I'm too young for Green Day. What are you, like an old person?
90s.
Like Nimrod used to be like some badass hunter, right? Like, oh my God, it's Nimrod. And then somewhere along the line, somebody named Nimrod screwed up so badly. You're like, oh, there's a Nimrod move there. Oh, that's a bummer.
You pulled a Nimrod.
It used to be a badass name, and then it turned into.
Well, around here, anytime somebody drops and breaks something, they're pulling an atom.
Yeah,
usually,
that's true.
So.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, maybe who knows? 100 years in the future, atom will be a bad term.
Yes, it could be. Or maybe I really think you're like Mr. Garvey. You just can't get people's names right.
I don't know that reference.
Yeah, you have to look it up.
Okay. So yeah, we've got all the friends of the shows here. Ahmed, Geoffrey.
Okay, cool. It's Friday. You're hanging out.
Chris Jones.
Technically, if you're watching this at work, you're working because this is PC World. We're talking about technology.
Yeah, technology.
Use that excuse.
Yeah.
You want to find out about?
Brad's working.
I'm watching this technology.
We're all working.
Wondering about stuff. I'm just saying if you're working.
All right.
I stand by. Yeah, we're going to talk about i9.
Yeah.
9990XE.
Core i9-9990.
Oh, there are 4 nines.
4 nines.
i9.
Wow.
9999.
Hooksters here. Flash photo.
Just needed one more 9.
No.
Ryzen sales is winning, and Kaby Lake-G.
Or is it?
Or is it?
All right. I'm ready to do it.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Ready?
Yep.
In this episode of the Full... Okay.
One more
Okay, got it. Ready? Here we go. In this episode of the Full Nerd, the rarest Core 9 ever, Ryzen is winning, and Kaby Lake-G lives.
Okay, yeah, that was
Am I
good.
looking at the wrong camera? Yeah, I am.
No, it's always the one with the monitor.
Oh, okay, good.
It's
Got
okay.
lost there.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Oh, we're not supposed to talk right now.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Full Nerd, episode 90. I just drank some coffee, and I'm trying not to choke. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hey, Internet.
Adam Patrick Murray, of course, controlling the vertical and horizontal.
Hello, everyone. I've got my boss here, Ellen.
Oh.
And
Don't
so,
get us fired.
yeah, don't get me fired. Let's not cuss. You know, I know we usually, do hijinks and stuff like that. But today we're going to keep it on the cool. Hi, Ellen. All right, and we're here to talk about some chips. We got a show all about chips, right?
Yeah, it's a laid back Friday, but nice assortment of hardware to talk about. And the big one I think is, and I'm gonna try to get this right, Core i9-9990XE.
That's right. You got it. I had
Didn't
to pull
need
it up
one
just a
more.
little.
It just
There you
needs
go.
one
You
more
got it.
9, right? It should have just been Core i9. It would have been just so awesome to like Core i9-9999XE, but And they can never do it again, can they? Because they can't really.
No.
Maybe they can.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saving that. There's going to be a 5 or 6 gigahertz version because this sucker does go to 9 gigahertz, 14 cores. 9 gigahertz. Jeez, now that would be awesome. 5 gigahertz, 14 cores. Base clock is 4 gigahertz, but it does support an all-core turbo boost of 5 gigahertz. So that's 14 cores.
Wild.
That's wild. And of course, if you've never heard of this CPU, it's like, whoa, where did they come up with this part? It actually popped up earlier this year, and everybody got triggered by it, as the young people say today. That's because the Core i9-9990XE was an auction-only item. You could not buy this.
I thought that auction only means you could buy it at auction, though, right?
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, wait. What does auction mean?
No,
then?
see that. So that's the crazy thing. As a consumer, you can't go to. I'm gonna go to Newegg or wherever, just buy this thing, put it, add it to the cart, and buy, check out, whatever. No, this is like, the auction wasn't even open to consumers. The auction was for PC builders. So if you're a boutique PC builder, Falcon Northwest, Origin, Puget, you would bid on these things, and then if you hopefully got one, then you could build a computer to sell to people.
Yeah. Oh, so
An expensive computer.
Yeah, right.
A very expensive computer. And the news, of course, from this week is it's kind of on sale. Somebody spotted German retailer and high-end PC builder, CaseKing.de.
Nice.
They had one on sale. And let me see. I'm going to check the price right now to see if it's
please.
changed. Oh, yeah. It's two. It needs one more 9, too. It's 2,999 euros. Could have gone like 99. It should have had the 99. Should have been 2,99999.
I have to wonder if they did that to match the price with the zeros at the end of the core name.
You see it.
Yeah, and based on exchange rates as of yesterday, when I wrote my story, PCWorld.com, go there and read that.
Boom.
3,376.8 cents American.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
That's,
yeah,
that's
14
an expensive
cores.
chip.
So why would somebody get this? Just for fun?
Well,
Just say they had it?
You would get it because there's this thing basically is an ultra. It's clear that it's an ultra bend part. They basically, for people who don't know, they like you save the very best ones, and then you push these things to 5 gigahertz. We're talking 14 cores at 5 gigahertz. This thing just smokes. Right, for the obviously it's not going to beat a 32 core Threadripper or the Xeon part, the 28 core Xeon for
Depending on the task.
Task for all those heavily multi-threaded tests. But most people don't really need that many cores, and the efficiency is not there. This is mostly because the Intel's official. I'm going to read you the boilerplate that I got from them yesterday. The Intel Core i9-9990XE is designed specifically for the financial services industry because of the specific customer request. Because the Intel Core i9-9990XE was built with unique specifications, high frequency, and meet the workload needs of the targeted industry. It can only be produced in limited quantities, which they admit, and will not be broadly made available. The part will be offered through an auction to ensure fairness in supply distribution. And of course, people got angry because it's interesting because there were two sides of it, different angry. One side, the anger was like, what? I want to have this. I want to be able to buy the CPU. I want to build a machine with the Core i9-9990XE. I don't care how much it is. I want the best. I want the coolest. I can't buy this unless I buy a full system, which, you can. The other side of the anger was from Ryzen AMD fans who are like, oh, this is a PR stunt. You made like 50 of them. You're gonna auction these things off, and it's not really anything except to grab headlines. So
50 times $2,000 or $3,000 a piece.
Yeah,
It's not too shabby.
I'm
though.
sure the number is not 50, but earlier I referenced God, I always mess this up.
Puget Systems.
Puget Systems. I really should try to get John Bach on here.
We should. That would be good.
They actually did some testing on it, and they said, wow, this thing is, great at those lighter thread loads, all cores, but we're not going to build systems on this because if we get these, we get one on auction, we sell it to somebody, say it nukes, and they have to warranty it. They have to eat the cost of the CPU because this thing, is so rare that Intel's like, oh yeah, normally it's like, oh, you blew up your 9900K, send it back, we'll give you another one. This time they're like, hey, it's on you. We don't know if we can give you another one, so there's no warranty. And they don't know if they can get another one, so it's pretty hard to build sort of an actual product around something. Like, I'm going to sell you this $7,000 PC. I don't know if I can fix it if something breaks. And people don't really feel good about buying stuff like that.
No.
Well, then I
also just want to
Brad
point
could have
out
a really
before we
good
continue
fidget spinner.
how far processors have come in the last few years. You just called a 14-core, 28-thread chip lightly threaded tasks.
Well, yeah, 14-core, yes. I know. It's insane, right? We could thank AMD for that. And one thing I do want to add to this discussion is, people got very angry. They're like, this is crazy. One thing, PR stint, the other thing is, I want to buy this. I talked to a couple boutique vendors, like, yeah, Intel's intention, the whole point was just to get, like, you're already selling $10,000 computers to people. These folks, this is like, they're going to give them a chance to buy something even more rare, because 14 cores at 5 gigahertz is going to mash just about everything out there. Yep. And everything except for those highly threaded tasks. So that was the idea. I think it's just sort of like, oh yeah, you can do this, but I think it didn't quite turn out the way they did because, of course, all the people getting angry, they couldn't buy it, and two, the ones that said you didn't really make it, this wasn't a real part. So
that said, I'm sure they probably sold pretty much every one of these that they made.
Oh yeah,
that's the one thing.
Come on,
people don't. I don't think people understand. I know right now it's in fashion to complain about Intel. It's in fashion to complain about the prices, the price premium, how few cores you get versus AMD. Every time you talk to Intel, and every time I've talked to vendors, it's not like they're saying, yeah, these things are just sitting on the shelves. Kaby Lake-X, though, that's sitting on the shelf. That went nowhere. You can buy those. Even during the absolute worst Intel shortages, you can get those Kaby Lake-X parts, right? 2011 4-core part. All of these high-end, high core count, even medium core count parts, they do really well. Intel sells all of them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, Idle7 over on Twitch says they'd rather buy two 2080 Ti's than one of these chips. So,
who are they trying to insult more? I don't know.
I don't know.
If that's an AMD fan, I just kind of think if that's like a Radeon Ryzen fan, you're like, that's like a double throw.
Yeah, right.
Like, I hate this thing so much, I'd rather take two of these other things I hate even more than the one thing I hate.
Probably.
Right. That's how you burn
Does
people.
Case King ship internationally? Like, if someone in the U.S. wanted to buy this,
Sure.
you buy it?
Oh, Brad, what's your credit
I'm sure
card
if you're
number?
buying a $3,000 part, you could work
Yeah, just
out.
put it in. Yeah. Nobody's watching.
It's
And then tax season, we're getting returns. Who knows?
There you go.
Yeah, that is a classic time for people to build computers.
You got a good return. Jeez.
It's still available too. I mean, I'm gonna click the button that says Inden Warenkorb. I think this is checkout. Since I don't have an account on Case King, I can't accidentally buy this.
Yeah, well,
I could really buy this right now if I just happen to have $3,600 sitting around.
I mean, if they ship though, right?
No, I'm sure they'll ship
You think so?
international.
All right.
For that much, they probably buy a plane
if
ticket.
you are
and bring it in.
interested in this chip, though, and you're willing to spend $3,600 plus whatever they'll charge you to ship it wherever you want, Gordon linked to a Puget Systems going over in his article. But Puget they had several articles like going over every aspect of this thing in different popular workloads like Elements and Photoshop and video production and all kinds of stuff like that.
Nice.
So I'd recommend go checking that out if you're thinking about maybe spending over $3,000 on a chip here.
Yeah.
And Dawn on YouTube says that if you buy that right now, Gordon, they're going to unsub.
yeah, I would have to because I wouldn't have to because my wife would kill me if I bought that. Well, you wouldn't need to unsub. She would unsub me.
The company's buying it.
Oh yeah, sure that'll happen. Then I'm like, hey, what's this cost here for lunch for $3,347.08? Yeah,
it's okay. I can just blame it on my boss.
I wasn't
She
looking.
took me out to lunch. Yeah.
I ordered
And we got a chip.
and salad.
We got chips. We got chips, right?
Which obviously, they clearly can't make a lot of these, but wouldn't it be pretty cool though? I mean, to get a CPU that's all core 5 gigahertz.
I mean,
out of the box. It does, yeah.
It's too bad this one didn't get the 8086K name.
You think so?
That would have been pretty special.
Well, the 8086K name it's unfortunate because they had to keep it 8 for 8 series. But yeah, that's a bummer. I still think they could have gone with the Core i9-9990.
9999.
I mean, just needed one more 9.
Nah, just go to 11. Just do Core 11. I still think they need to whip that out.
That for April Fool's joke, they really missed that. But
yeah, well,
Core i11 part or Core i10 or something like that.
Here's the thing, Gordon. Nobody buys Intel. Obviously, I've heard in the news that everyone's buying Ryzen, right?
Yeah, that was I was gonna. Brad, you know about that? Ryzen is winning.
I know about nice segues, and that was a good one.
That wasn't bad. I tried.
That was a 4 out of 5 segue. I think.
Could do it again.
Yeah. So anyway, couple different things came out this week. First up being the regular. I'm not sure. I think every quarter. The German retailer, PC retailer Mind Factory puts out its CPU sales, and it shows AMD continuing to outsell Intel chips 2-1 at
boom, they're winning.
Their shop in Mind Factory. That's just one retailer serving one country, so it's a limited data point. And AMD has had a considerable lead over Intel parts at Mind Factory ever since Ryzen launched. That hasn't really translated to the overall processor market if you look at like IDC numbers and stuff like that. But, it's very encouraging for AMD. And actually, I think it was today or last night, Gamers Nexus actually just published a video showing affiliate sales from their own articles, breaking down AMD versus Intel ever since Ryzen came out.
Oh, is that what that was about?
And they're seeing a lot of the same sort of activity as Mind Factory is. So basically, AMD is outselling Intel among Gamers Nexus customers at this point as well. But both Mind Factory and Gamers Nexus show that Intel actually, their chips sell for a lot more money than AMD's do. It seems like AMD is selling a lot of its Ryzen 5, its price to performance king there.
Right.
And doing good with enthusiast markets, it seems like, at least, even if it's not translating into desktop, big box sales at this point.
Let me bring up this slide from the video.
I like that one.
This is the audience CPU sales analysis, Intel versus AMD.
And this is I can't see the slide right now, thanks Skype, but it was only talking about Gamers Nexus affiliate sales over that timeshare. And obviously, the ones that they prefer sell more. So there are a bunch of, grains of salt to take that with, but I still think it's an illuminating figure.
Right?
Yeah, it's
interesting.
What I'm very interested in are all these sort of like troughs and peaks, You would think that it would just be Intel basically having no competition for a long time, suddenly losing ground continually, but they will sort of bottom out and then they'll just kind of peak back up again. I'm trying to think of, unfortunately, I didn't read Steve's story, but I'd love to see what are these little diamonds? Oh, major releases. So the big releases are
the big releases. If you watch the video, he explains most of the big peaks. Like Black Friday sales, he said, because AMD tends to go all out for Black Friday for the holidays. They really cut the prices of their chips, and that's when they see a lot of AMD sales happening. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same thing for Mind Factory, actually.
And it looks like a February 2018 had another spike.
That was when the
2018.
last gen Ryzen launched, right?
Yeah, right.
Second gen?
Yeah. Huh.
And kind of the late October was i9, right?
Yeah.
So,
friend of the show, Peter's asking, or would like me to ask you, why OEMs and OMDs are so stubborn with Ryzen.
Well, it's complicated. There's lots of reasons. One is the vast majority of what they sell has been Intel for a long time. We're talking more than a decade. Intel's been in firm number one position easily. I mean, longer than that, obviously. A lot of OEMs will also you go with your partner even during the bad times because they've gotten you through the good times. Because they may make more margin. There also probably is a lot of resistance from consumers that go oh my God, AMD. That's I had one of those FX parts or whatever, some horrible slow part that Core 2 or Core kicked the butt. Its butt. So it's really hard to get consumers to accept that AMD is back. We all know this who have been paying attention. The AMD parts have been wonderful for the last couple of years. Hard to get that to your average person going into a Best Buy or anywhere and buying a computer with it. And then also there's the part of the Intel's marketing is huge.
Yep.
They market everywhere. TV, Super Bowl. So Intel's name is big. And then they also have partnerships with vendors. They're like, hey, we want you to sell computers with our chips in it. We're gonna give you money to run this ad, right? You can talk about your computer at the end. We've all heard it, right? Dun 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 dun.
Oh, God, come on!
That's
man.
the check.
You got to pay for that.
That vendor loves that. Every vendor loves it because that's a check coming from Intel. You know what? If you're in a business, all businesses are not our friends. They are there for themselves. They're there for their shareholders. They're gonna like, yeah, you're not getting the money to advertise this stuff. So there's just a lot of resistance, but obviously all the data shows that AMD has just done a wonderful job despite that, right? Because it's been a great couple of years for AMD. You know, a lot of that is, you know, the YouTube. A lot of that is, you know, the enthusiast media. The people who are into PCs can tell people about this. End of the day, though, Intel still sells probably 8 CPUs for every 2 that AMD does.
Well, and
that said, though, I think that it's, you know, really encouraging for AMD's efforts to have, I mean, Mind Factory and Gamers Nexus are both, you know, popular enthusiast, you know, destinations or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure. And the fact that they're both show AMD sales dominating at this point, or, you know,
Right.
at least the lead in terms of Gamers Nexus. I mean, the enthusiasts are the ones who wind up being the evangelists and spreading the word over time. So I think maybe they're, you know, we're going to keep things affordable and give you a lot of cores. I think their marketing efforts and the way they thought out their product line, I think over the long term, this is a good like base strategy because it does. You're not going to reclaim that market share overnight.
Yeah.
But if you start with the enthusiasts, trickles down.
Yeah, I mean that's what Apple did, right? And then they lost him. But yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for Ryzen 3 because you know that's going to be even another big jump." But Dennis in YouTube's asking a question: could this also be caused by the security vulnerabilities on Intel? Do you think that's playing any part of this?
No.
Yeah,
No.
they suck, but people don't buy processors based on that. Very few.
Yeah. It's just like there's no way. The awareness of your average person to Spectre meltdown is just.
Yep.
And look at everybody just did the full freak out when this happened. What 14 months ago? I mean, no, it's like the end of the world, folks. End of the world. And like people are like, what? I don't even know. Like what Spectre meltdown? Nobody even remembers it anymore. So nobody cares. That's not it. You know, a lot of it is again, it's a resistance. It takes a long time to rebuild brand. It doesn't happen overnight. But you know, it's interesting. I was looking at the chart that Adam had up earlier, and if you had a pen, if you had a MacBook, you couldn't do this. But if you had a PC with pen support, you could draw trend lines. I mean, there's a clear trend line, right? Intel line. Down, AMD up. That's a real trend.
I mean, up and to the right.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of AMD's strength right now is. Good luck if you can get Intel CPU sometimes, right? They clearly have a big issue supplying them. They've had an issue supplying them. End of the day, if you're an OEM, you're like, I got to sell something. People are pushing AMD systems now because they can get the parts and they can get them at the lower price points that some consumers want. So,
Rudy's asking a question that you guys seem to love Intel. They're just curious.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think they're actually genuinely asking. What preferences are around here.
I don't prefer by brand. Brands are companies and aren't your friends, like Gordon was saying. Yeah. I prefer product and results.
I agree with Brad, and I know everybody, of course, wants to ascribe their theory that you're someone so and so, you love them, your bias is like. End of the day, benchmarks and prices and results don't lie. We give you advice on what we think you should do, what the strengths and weaknesses of all the products are. You make that decision, and as always, don't listen to just us. Look at other YouTubers, look at other videos, read other stories. You make the decision. It's your money. It's your money. No one can tell you how to spend your money, and no one can give you crap about how you spend your money. So
my wife tells me how to spend my money all the time.
She tells me how not to spend my money. So what did I get?
But it's interesting. We don't have the slide, but Steve at Gamers Nexus was going over the product sales mix kind of a little bit. And like I said, AMD's Ryzen 5 actually sell a lot for them, which makes sense because it's like it used to be buy a Core i5. That used to be the go-to. If you're a gamer buying a typical gaming PC, buy a Core i5. That's basically in recent years turned to buy a Ryzen 5 because it delivers a lot more, price to performance mix, I think. But Gamers Nexus customers buy a ton of higher end Core i7 and Core i9 parts. So when people are going for the top end, like peak gaming performance kind of a deal, they still go to Intel.
Yeah, and that is, it's also one thing you got to realize, like Case King and Gamers Nexus, that is clearly an enthusiast audience too, right? So average.
For what it's worth, in my personal PC, I have Ryzen 1800X, and in our GPU testing rig here, we have the what's it called, 8700K.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a mix in my office.
Yeah, I have my machine at home is an ancient Sandy Bird G part that I really need to rebuild. It's interesting because i5 has been that go-to part forever, right? I mean, going all the way back to 2600K. But that was always like a $205 CPU eventually. Yep. It started out at $230, and then once the initial demand was over, it would always settle down right to like $195. I remember that price point for the 90s, for the 2600K, and then all the i5s. I just checked on Amazon, the i5 9600K, which is 6 cores, turbo, no HT, is $265.
Well, you also got to remember Intel's having that manufacturing issues, so they have limited every single part that Intel sells is selling for above MSRP at this point, including like if you look at the budget Pentiums and stuff like that, they're selling for like $20 or $30 more than they should. So everything is.
Is it now? One thing I thought I saw in the stories about the German retailer figures, interestingly, the 2700. Or the 26, the Ryzen 5 second gen did not blow away the Ryzen 5 first gen part. People were still buying the first gen part, the 1600 over the 2600.
I don't have those right in front of me, but I wouldn't be surprised by that because again, AMD is very aggressive with sales, and like when the second gen parts came out, you can still get you can find first gen Ryzen parts for like incredibly good prices. So
yeah. I'm going to check it out. This is sort of equivalent because it's 2600X. Ryzen 5 2600X 190, actually 189.99 with the cooler though. So
yeah. That's a heck of a value proposition right there if you're looking to build a nice solid mid-range gaming PC.
Yeah. I mean that's why. But I guess people like, oh, you know what? I'm going to buy. Well, tell me this though. What would you buy?
Because look, you just said the 9600K is $265. So that's what, $70-$80 more expensive with no cooler.
Yeah, no cooler. But here I think is where we're seeing the difference. For that Ryzen 5 2600X 190 with a cooler, but Ryzen 5 1600 is 127.
Yeah,
with a cooler. So you're basically looking at $127 for your CPU. You put that $60 towards your GPU or more RAM or a slightly bigger SSD, and are you really going to see the difference?
And you still have a 6-core 12-thread part for your $127. That's ludicrous.
Yeah,
there you
go. The future is wonderful. Glad we're here now.
Hell yeah. There's no better time to be a PC builder than now.
Yep.
It is, because right now, like the graphics card cryptocurrency crunch is over. AMD's mid-range CPUs are selling for awesome prices. The SSDs are cheap as hell. RAM's starting to come down. Like it's a great. I said before, don't build a PC, buy a PC. I said that about a year ago. Totally flipped now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great deal to build. Do you think you should stock up? That's the one thing I do wonder. Everybody always like, well,
you can't anticipate.
SSDs might go up, you know, but then you always,
yeah.
I actually did that during one cycle. Like after DDR3 got real expensive for a while, then it crashed back down. I found some on some real good deal, and I spent like $40 or $50 stocking up with extra RAM just in case I need it in the future. And now everything's DDR4, and I just wound up wasting that $40 or $50. So,
you always think it's a good idea to stock up on it, but it rarely ever pays off. You was just stuck with junk. You could have.
It's worth it for SSDs. SSDs, you can just keep on moving. I've got like 4 or 5 different ones in my system of, trailing back 10 years or whatever. So.
Yeah, but if you had a drawer full of 128 gig SSDs, SATA, you'd be like, oh man, I don't have the SATA port. I got to buy a SATA card just to run these damn things. It's worth throwing them all away just to buy 1 terabyte SSD these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I think everybody always thinks the price is going to go up, but never. I guess you got to count on like warnings, like the glue factory melting down is a classic.
Well, is now a good time to buy, say a low end CPU that has a really good IGP?
I honestly, I don't think so. I mean, is this a trap or something? I wouldn't know. I think definitely that's sort of IGP is still sort of a you have to because you're constrained by severe budgets. But if you can afford discrete graphics and you're building a gaming box, it's always the answer. I think I've never said no to that.
I think Adam was trying to segue cleverly there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That was a clever segue.
The thing is, Kaby Lake-G is not a low-end CPU.
Really? Is it not? Ah, dang it. I thought we were talking about the graphics winner of 2018. Wasn't that a Kaby Lake-G?
No, that was. See,
man.
he's trolling again. He's Brad.
I can't.
That was the Ryzen APU.
That was a Ryzen APU.
2200G, $99 CPU and graphics card of the year.
Whoops.
So this is
man. Take my nerd card
this
away.
This is
I really
Intel's
messed
version
up
of an APU.
Okay.
It's more expensive. It's probably so. What Adam was trying to get us to is the last topic of the day. Kaby Lake-G lives.
Nice.
Yeah, and people are like, "What's Kaby Lake-G?"
Yeah,
at this point, right?
Yeah, probably. It's only showed up in a couple of parts, right?
Yeah. So Kaby Lake-G, I'm going to fill in. Basically, Intel took a quad-core Kaby Lake part, 7th gen cores, which really all the same anyway, and then they went to AMD and they bought a custom. I got to say it correctly because it's not really Vega. It's a Radeon Vega RX. Is that what it is?
RX Vega?
Radeon RX Vega Mobile or something like that.
Yeah.
It's essentially, even though it says Vega in the name, it's an amalgamation of Polaris and Vega. It doesn't. It has the HBM, but it doesn't have. It doesn't. It's not the Vega cores. It has a high bandwidth cache. It has a high bandwidth cache. And all of it was built so you could, instead of taking the motherboard from your typical gaming laptop, once you put in discrete graphics with the GDDR5 or 6 or whatever one, which is around the chip, and then you have your CPU, you get a motherboard in it. Most gaming laptops, maybe about that big, the size of maybe a cell phone. So the entire motherboard could be, if it's small, the size of a cell phone, typically even bigger than a big cell phone. With Kaby Lake-G, they were able to shrink it down to, I don't know, like it would fit in the size, it would fit in your palm. So a major reduction in the size. And of course, when Intel revealed this at CES, people freaked out because this was Intel, a new Intel, actually going to its hated enemy, AMD, and buying a graphics chip from them and putting it with their CPU. And people thought this is like... Go ahead,
and since
Brad.
then, they just bought the entire Radeon team over to
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jensen. I think, people really, I had very high expectations. There were 2 parts. One was 65 watts. One was 100 watts. There were other really cool things. Remember, this is mostly 99% a laptop technology. It did make it into a NUC. But because they can control the thermals of the CPU and the GPU and manage it all on their own, they actually got better performance out of these chips than you would see out of, say, a 7th gen Kaby Lake on its own with a discrete part. So because they can manage it, they could not manage that in a normal laptop. Intel themselves, it was a laptop maker that had to then manage the GPU and the CPU. So performance was awesome. 65 watt parts only when it made in laptops. I really thought this was a threat to NVIDIA. I think a lot of people did at that time.
Yep.
In the end, though, there were only 2 laptops that were ever made. Dell XPS 15, 2-in-1 9575, and the HP Spectre X 360 15. Those are the only 2 laptops ever made. Everybody else got scared off. I know that people will say, "Oh, it's just not good enough. Maybe there weren't enough parts." But my feeling is like people are like, you know what? I don't want to mess with NVIDIA. I sell.
Yeah.
This is that resistance we were talking about earlier. I sell 80% NVIDIA parts, or actually 80%. Who are we kidding? I sell 90% discrete GPUs in my NVIDIA laptops. You know what? It's not worth taking this exercise for this. It's just not worth it. I'm just going to stick with that.
Huh.
And it's too bad because it's a really impressive chip.
It's a great part.
Yeah.
But yesterday, of course, I was really surprised. Acer introduced the Concept D5, Concept D5.
D9, I think is
5, I think.
Oh, well, yeah. That's
looks
one
like
of them.
dyslexia.
Yeah, the D5 laptop.
Sorry,
Yep.
whoops.
And it's basically Kaby Lake-G, 65-watt part. Interestingly, 14 months after HP and Dell did it. So I'm really surprised that someone else actually made a Kaby Lake-G laptop. And I did sort of question whether it made any sense at this point, because 14 months ago, we lived in a different world. There were no 6-core parts out there in laptops. It was just, 7th-gen Kaby Lake. Today, who wants to go back to a quad-core Kaby Lake when you've got 6-core Coffee Lakes out there?
I think it's pretty all right for the concept that it is. I think it'd be less welcome in a modern gaming PC.
Right.
But this is designed to be a thin, light, like attractive. It's a PC for creators. They did the new Concept D line is for people who create stuff. And I think that both those quad cores, those Core i7 quad cores, and the Radeon parts will do pretty good and enable that form factor. That would be real hard to get with discrete graphics, I think.
Yeah, and that is the one thing that I think Acer did right, because otherwise I've been like, it's a little late for this. We're sort of past that, but it's a 15-inch laptop that weighs 3.3 pounds. So like the Dell and the HP, they were like 4.5 maybe. They were convertible, so they had touch glass, and all that adds. Convertibles generally weigh more than clamshells. 3.3 pounds with a really fast CPU is impressive. I mean, that is
it's surprisingly
really
effective
light.
GPU too.
Yeah, it's right because you're like it's basically GeForce 1050 Ti kind of class graphics with the 65-watt part.
Wow.
Yeah, the 100-watt part was kind of like almost to 1060 level, but nobody ever built a laptop around it. You couldn't do it with thin and light either, but this is 3.3 pounds. XPS 13 is like 2.8 pounds, so it's not that much heavier than that. 15-inch screen, screaming CPU and GPU.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the right choice for this.
Well,
this point.
but it's also interesting because that whole Concept D lineup, like most of them, either the laptops or the desktops, they were pushing, we got Xeons and Quadros, for the creative professionals. So, it's kind of a weird. I mean, because I guess there wouldn't be really an equivalent for that if you were trying to do something so thin and light, right?
Yeah, I mean at that weight, but would you do it, Adam? Because I mean, honestly, the other thing that I can think about that is kind of close is the GS65, right? MSI's GS65.
Yeah.
And today's GS65 is basically you're looking at currently with an 8th gen 6-core Coffee Lake H part. 6 cores, screaming, and then you're going to throw in 1070 Max Q, and now the RTX versions are coming out, and I'm sure there's going to be a 9th gen with RTX coming out. Like, are you really, as a creative, would you step away from 6 cores and RTX for Kaby Lake-G to save a pound?
Well, but it's not just that. I mean, like it does have the full DCI-P3 color space on the monitor. I mean, there are great things about, professional laptops, but also that's coming at a price premium as well. So, bang for your buck, man, I'd still go with the 65. And also I do enough gaming, that I'd be like, I could do a little bit of gaming over here.
Yeah.
So
I think that is a very interesting product from Acer, though, and I think that's like the ideal product for this chip to be in
at this point. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it is getting.
3.3 pounds. I think Intel's own Hades Canyon Nook or whatever weighs more than that, and it doesn't even have a monitor in it.
I think definitely. Well, once you throw in the power brick, it definitely.
Yeah.
So I did not see this laptop. Melissa was in New York and she said, I really want to see it because 3.3 pounds, 15-inch laptop with Kaby Lake-G, if it screams, if they've tuned it right, could be it just might be like all kinds of awesome, I think. Which I'm surprised because it's an ancient CPU and GPU at this point.
Yeah, it came out at two CESs ago at this point, right?
Yeah, 2018, January 2018, full 16 months ago. So cool stuff.
Yeah, it's super cool stuff. Well, yeah, we might even.
Well, I'm glad to see it. Like you said, I'm glad to see another company try it out at least, even though it's so much later. They could be like, NVIDIA, we didn't really try it out. Because I agree, I don't think there's anything untoward going on, but I would not be surprised if, the threat of NVIDIA's parts availability might play into the fact that it was never picked up like it should have been, because it really is a great part.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no proof of this. Let's not get into some forum and start spinning. There's no proof of anybody making any whatever, but it is telling.
When I say threat, I don't mean NVIDIA going, "Hey, we're going to hold your parts." I mean the people at Acer are going, "I don't want NVIDIA to hold my parts."
Yeah, no. I think what it just tells you is if you look at the players here, ASUS, MSI, Gigabyte, other kind of like gaming focused laptops where all their eggs are in a gaming market. Mm-hmm. Like they're the partner I know. I'm working with them on this stuff. I'm not going to spin up one thing just to do this one thing. And there's all kinds of. It's just not. I can understand them saying it's not worth it for me. Dell, Acer, HP. These are much larger companies. They sell all kinds. Their stack is not as dependent on gaming laptops. So I think it's just like, yeah, we can do this, and who knows how it all plays out. But
nice, yeah, I'm excited, and we might even have Melissa on the show next week to talk about the Acer stuff. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out scheduling wise. But you want to get to some viewer questions? I think you have a couple of emails that got sent to you, right? You want to hit those first? Yeah. You want to do the question from Twitter, Brad, or? Oh yeah, there's that one too.
It's Chris. I'm gonna
go ahead.
This.
Go for it.
I'm gonna pull Adam here, Mr. Garvey, Chris Baldessano. See, I got that right.
Well, you got the easy one, man. That's not hard.
It was what's any word on the 128 gig chipset for the i9? When will that be available? I'm going to assume you're talking about the 1151 part, the Core i9-9900K, because 2011 getting to 128 gigs is not really an issue. Core i9-9900K is certified for 128 gigs asterisk, which is, it will work with 128 gigs. We just don't have the 32 gig DIMMs yet. So I think what it's going to take is for 32 gig DIMMs to really get to be more available for consumers to buy them. And then, of course, the board vendors then have to get these modules in, and they have to say, yeah, this works. So it's technically i9-9900K 1151 parts do support 128 gigs. Remember the memory controller?
Those double-stacked ones? Those double-stacked RAM, like the tall ones?
Yeah.
Would those work?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if you can run 4 of those.
Okay.
I think like those double stack ones were like something that ASUS worked with the memory manufacturer just to make modules for that particular board, which was a reduced size board with two DIMM slots, so you could get more RAM. And it's possible, but I think that's not the way everybody's going. They don't want to do these double stack things. You can barely get memory modules into systems anyway. So they were looking at true 32 gig, DIMMs that are probably hard to get right now. So it'll happen.
But no time frame yet.
No, I don't know. I would look, it's one of those things where the vendors are like, you know what, ain't nobody buying this. I'm not going to burn engineering time to qual these. So you may have to go to forums and see what luck people are having with them.
Okay.
Nice. Do you want to get to the emails?
Oh, okay. This is Jared from Fargo, North Dakota. See, I got that right. Huge fan of the show. Been listening since the beginning. I currently have an old Creative Fatality sound card and Kingston HyperX headphones. Spatial sounds seem adequate when playing games like Apex Legends and Battlefield 5, but I'm looking for something better. I'd like some advice on how to get the best headphone surround sound qualities possible for my new gaming rig in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. Does it make sense to buy a sound card or stick to onboard audio? How about 3.5 millimeter wired connections versus wired or wireless through USB? Lastly, what about DTS headphone : X 2.0 or other software solutions that turn stereo headphones into virtual sound? I think Adam Patrick Murray will answer this.
I've got an answer. Do you know what it is?
What are you going to say?
Super X-Fi.
Yep, that was my guess.
Listen, I mean, like, I still use that thing. I can't not use it when I play games. Like, I love that thing, and the fact that it's not, it's not based off of any drivers. It's just plug and play. And I've had great results with that. Since then, I've also gotten in the Sennheiser. Oh man, I can't remember the name of it, but their spatialized sound one. Creative also send me one of their older spatialized sound ones. So I've been doing a lot of A/B testing, and Super X-Fi, man, that's the way to go. And it's $150, little dongle, and then invest the rest of the money in a nice pair of headphones that are certified for it. That's what I do. Easy, hands down.
I have more advice.
I mean, unless I would say the one situation is that if you also have monitors, on your desk that you want to hear through, like Super X-Fi isn't going to work for that. So
yeah, if you want to run,
yeah.
Although could you just use a double output, and then it's not optimal, but you can still get.
I mean, I guess you could.
I do that at home because I'm lazy. So.
Yeah. I guess it depends. It depends. I mean, if it's just pure gaming and you're 100% on headphones for the most of the time, do that. I've tried a lot of the spatialized ones. I have some Astro A40s, 50s, whatever the wireless ones are. It's nice to not have a wire, but also it's nice to have like amazing spatialized sound, and you get to pick, kind of your choice of headphones. So
my advice is, one, don't go USB. I mean, there's nothing wrong with USB. It's different audio. Just remember, when you plug in USB audio, you're bypassing your onboard Realtek, your $300 onboard, or your $300 add-in sound card, and you are basically running all the audio through USB. Whatever the headphone USB maker makes is what you're getting. I personally prefer a 3.5-inch jack going directly into a discrete sound card. You pick your brand, whatever you like. There's several to pick from still. The audio will be way better than any onboard if you actually care about audio. And I think the interesting hybrid is what Adam is saying. Clearly, I'm sure Creative is going to add Super X-Fi into its sound cards coming up.
Yeah.
So I would almost, you can just wait for an iteration that has a Super X-Fi. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but what I like about that route is there probably will be a little more tunability to it, which
True.
One of the issues I think with Super X-Fi is I wish I could tune it a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
You can't, because
that's something we've told them. So yeah, hopefully that's coming. But good point. I mean, yeah, if they ever enable that processing on their desktop cards, then it kind of bypasses that other problem where you have the outboard monitors too. So I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But still, yeah, it's.
I have a question. Maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't. I find that most gaming headsets that have a built-in microphone like this tend to be USB. Is it possible to get a gaming headset with a mic if you're using 3.5?
Yeah. Actually, Hayden just reviewed the Sennheiser GSP 600, something like that.
Okay.
And they're actually sending me the open back version of that too, because I prefer open back ones.
Yeah,
but yeah, those are great.
Open back I think it might be better actually. With Super X-Fi, definitely. The last thing is DTS headphone X 2.0. I'm not that up on it. Are you, Adam?
No. Is that what we saw at CES? The DTS,
it might be.
Oh no, that was Dolby. Never mind. Right, I think DTS is what might have been built into that Sennheiser thing, and it was close. It was good, but yeah, I wouldn't put my money there.
It's hard to say. We'd have to see it, but it's probably going to be good because DTS and Dolby do things right. But one issue I do have is we are still trying to take audio that's basically been made. You're trying to make sausage and then turn it back into the original product with all of these things.
Yeah.
The sad thing is the big deal with home theater now is it's all this object based, right? It doesn't actually. They're not doing the processing and then pumping it out. They're letting they're pumping the information, the data to your surround sound deck, which then figures out where to send it that's optimal for your room. That's what we did on the PC like 15 years ago, Right,
Yeah.
that's sort of object-based because direct sound 3D was you sent the audio. We're not going to process it for you and then give you the sausage. We're going to give you the meat to make the sausage, and then your thing will make the sausage for you. All these things try to reassemble the meat from the sausage. It's never.
Now I'm hungry. It's almost lunch. You got me hungry.
I'm just angry that sadly, as somebody who's into PC gaming audio, that people are talking about how great these object-based surround sound systems are for home, when PC had that 15 years ago and we killed it, unfortunately. So sucks for us.
Yeah.
You know what sucks more?
What?
Oh man, I don't know the answer to that question. If
Bill
you can answer
Strom.
that second question.
Bill Strom. Yeah, I'm just going to read this. Please don't make NVIDIA GeForce web drivers for Mac OS typically are identified for NVIDIA's Fermi, Kepler, Maxwell, and Pascal architectures as blah, 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 NVIDIA.
Long
string kernel extensions. Apple has refused to authorize NVIDIA web drivers for its latest Mojave OS, but all those drivers still work for High Sierra and earlier operating systems. Where does that leave NVIDIA web drivers for the Turing architecture, such as for the new GTX 1660 Ti graphics cards? Are the new NVA GDT drivers that will work with Mac Sierra, or will the Pascal drivers still work? Or are we, Hackintosh and Mac owners, out of luck now, even if sticking with High Sierra? Thanks for reading. Any comments appreciated. Bill, I don't know if you know this. Brad knows this. So does Adam. I actually am an expert on fixing Apple and Mac, specifically Macintosh problems.
He's been on the Macworld podcast.
If you go out there, I have the solutions to 99% of most of the problems with problems on the Mac. People don't even know this about me. I am a true Mac expert.
Dang. Okay. Please help us.
So what you should do, Bill, is go buy a PC. I know if you're running a Hackintosh, then run Windows. I mean, to me, it's like, I don't understand. It's the only way to fix it. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Can anyone tell me why Apple would not let its own customer base run NVIDIA hardware?
Weird.
I can tell you why. One, they're still angry at NVIDIA over those failed GPUs from 2002 or something like that. I don't think that's it. I think the other thing is look, we're Apple. You're going to go out, you're going to download these drivers, you're going to run it with the eGPU, you're going to break our operating system, and then you're going to call and bug us to fix it. So to prevent you from breaking it and bugging us, we're not going to let you do it. Right? That's probably the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Apple has a track record of taking things away and not giving them back. So if he's going to hold his breath, then, he might be suffocating after a while.
Yes, but obviously, what fixes these issues with Apple Macs most of the time is you buy PC.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean,
I don't know. I, as the resident GPU expert, don't know anything about Mac, so I can't provide any advice beyond buy a PC myself.
Yeah, well, maybe this is also just further indication that they're getting more in bed with AMD, on the graphics side, right?
Hey, you know what? Little known people don't remember. Raja went from ATI to Apple. He worked at Apple for a long time before he went to AMD.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah. Huh. I saw him at IDF one day. I was like, hey, what are you doing? I didn't know you out of your Apple cave. But it's like, yeah. And then he went to AMD, and now he's at Intel.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's that was easy. Good thing we had a Mac expert here.
Yes.
But how about
next, buy PC.
There you go. We got a question over on the Discord. You can join our Discord channel. The link is in the description. And get us some questions. Eric the Red asked last week, Ryzen versus Intel stability. I have two self-built gaming desktops for work and home. The work desktop has a Ryzen 2700X with a GTX 1070. The home machine is an Intel 4790K with a GTX 1070 as well. The Ryzen work machine seems to be a lot less stable with blue screens at desks and lots of Chrome tabs saying, "Aw, snap." I work as a web developer, use HyperX for Linux VMs, and play games with my son when I have free time. Have any of you had stability issues with Ryzen and AMD, or are they completely unrelated?
I would think it wouldn't be as much of a problem with the 2700X, but it sounds like you're experiencing it. But when Ryzen first came out, there was a lot of rough edges. So I would recommend going, looking up what kind of motherboard you have, going to the website and seeing if there are BIOS updates available. because I use a Ryzen system at home. I'm talking on one right now. And I, back in the early days, used to have some stability issues, but now it's been right as a rock. And I think if you look for a BIOS update, it might fix some of your issues.
Yeah, and it was, believe me, the original Ryzens were very much works in progress when they were launched. So definitely update BIOS, update drivers. That's usually it. You know, it could be other things too. Maybe you're running the memory out of spec. You might want to reset your, we're calling it BIOS. I know some people get angry. It's U5. There's no more BIOS. Try resetting your BIOS anyway. But that's usually it. I mean, could look for cooling problems, other things, but that's... I will say Intel has been around longer. They're, I think we can all recognize, going to mostly be slightly more polished, right? Because they've been around so long. But there is no way in hell that everybody who has ever bought a Ryzen-based system is getting blue screens all the time. So it's a unique problem to you. It could be bad motherboard. Who knows? These things happen. You're going off a sample of 2, right? So not enough to really judge it by.
Yep.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I've built multiple Ryzen and Intel PCs over the last couple of years. And when Ryzen first came out, there were some teething issues. But these days, I mean, I don't consider one any more inherently stable than the other.
Yeah. And, you know, this happens to everybody. I have, oh my God, my wife's machine, which I still have not rebuilt. Her Sandy Bridge box does not come out of sleep. You cannot, it'll go to sleep. It just does not.
Really weird.
Well, I mean, it'll go to sleep.
Permanent sleep. That just means death, Gordon.
If it goes to sleep, you basically, the only way to get it to come back, it goes into hibernation. And it just doesn't. The only way I don't think it's not actually, and it turns out it's not a Windows issue, which of course everybody wants to blame Microsoft. It is actually a problem with that specific motherboard that I have. It's like a Z77 board that had a problem with coming out of sleep.
Huh.
They said, we fixed it by you buying the next one.
Sounds about right.
I'm not going to say who the board vendor is.
All right, we got another question from Old Man Brian. In the last episode of The Full Nerd, Gordon and quite a few people mentioned VR headsets still being too expensive. The Oculus Rift originally released at $600, and when it was available recently, could be bought at $350. For Windows Mixed Reality, at almost half the price at $200 or $200 to almost $300, less than the base PS4. Yada yada yada. In your opinion, what is an acceptable price for VR headset? You.
All right. You know, for me, Brad, go first.
Either
he
one.
called you out. Why don't you go for it?
Okay, I'm going to say this because I don't run VR at home. I'm too cheap. I would say $300. Like for me, $300 is like I really, really want a Vive. My kids bug me about it, but it's like $500. Is it like $500 for the original Vive with all the six?
Yes.
So I mean, that's just it's a tough pill to swallow. Plus all the space it takes. I'm going to say this. I really never thought I would, but after trying the HP mixed reality one, I want to see what this next round of mixed reality headsets brings. It's like the idea of not having to set up base stations to do, Vive might be.
I actually have heard a lot of people saying that they've bought into mixed reality because it's cheaper and because of, it's kind of, like, an entry point. An entry point. I'm not saying it's, they've had great success, but if you're a little more enthusiast into it, I could also see it being a jumping off point to the bigger ones. You start off with mixed reality. The Will Smith
episode, he gave some great, reasons why mixed reality is good for new people because like you can play Steam games, it just works, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But Hayden, our games reporter, he's like a VR guru. He's tested everything. He's great, and he really has issues with the tracking on that because the way the cameras work, if your hands go above your head or behind you or anything like that, like it does in VR, it can become a big disaster. And I feel like I would rather than spend $200 on a mixed reality headset that I'll get frustrated at when I put my hand behind my head when I'm playing super hot. I'd rather spend $350 or $400 and get the Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I think that's also a difference between inside out and outside in. Some people just don't want to put up base stations,
Yeah, and so one thing they have said is like, look, we recognize there have been issues, and we've tuned the algorithm so we know if you're moving your arm up this way, we're going to sort of move it up and back down. And I don't know how often Hayden is surrendering in these games, but you don't do it that often. He sucks, I guess. So I think maybe it's gotten better, but yeah, I agree with you. That I don't understand why they just don't put like
Camera in
cameras
the
up
back.
on top. But I understand why, because it's like it's $300 or $250. They're so cheap. Mixed reality headsets are super cheap. Start adding cameras and all this other stuff, and then you're up to like what, $500? It's like
Yeah.
I kind of wish they had kept the original Oculus Rift around. They just announced the new one that's coming out soon. If it's not out yet, I'm not sure. For I think it's $400.
the S?
I wish they had kept the
Rift
original
S.
one around, even though it has pretty gnarly screen door effect, and sold that for like $250,
Yeah.
$275. Even though it's older, I think at that price point they would sell a lot more and get people into it. And even though it does have gnarly screen door effect sometimes, you get over it pretty quickly, and I think that would be a real great introduction to VR.
Well, then it's still better than the PS4 one. I've heard
Oh,
the
yeah.
screen door on
Oh,
that one's
yeah.
even worse. So there's a lot of people going in there that, yeah.
Use that, you'll start puking everywhere.
that HP reverb. Let me just tell you, as the only one tried it, it's like you will just be like, damn.
Yeah.
Like when
The
you
4K
actually,
screens per eye.
it's
Yeah.
there is a screen door effect, but you really, really have to look for it. It's amazing. But it's also mixed reality, so.
I think $300 though. That's my $300. Once it gets to be about $300, that's a good price. Because at this point, like the Oculus Rift, if you have to connect it to a PC with there's still the new Oculus Rift that's coming out, the Rift S, I believe it's called.
Yep.
It still has the same basic compatibility spec compatibility requirements as the original one, which at this point, 2 or 3 years later, is actually a fairly modest PC. So, I mean, it's not anywhere near as expensive as it used to be, and the new Oculus Rift headset looks pretty good. So hopefully, it's starting at $400. Maybe it'll creep down to $300, and I think they'll actually start moving some units much more.
And the last thing I want to add is like the other thing. I'm honestly, even if it were $300, I might think I'm going to wait because, as we talked about with Will, we're like in the early stages of smartphones, and hell, who wants to end up with a BlackBerry or a Windows phone?
Hey,
right?
hey.
So no, I'm the features keep adding, like the eye tracking and the Vive is like it's actually a great feature to have. You can imagine that eventually going into more headsets, the higher res screens. VR in 5 years is gonna knock your socks off.
Awesome. We got a couple more. This next one's from No Cloud about Meltdown Spectre. Meltdown Spectre required mitigations in operating systems, applications, and firmware. Was the hype justified? Why was Linux able to mitigate without BIOS updates? What processors have implemented correct architecture and not mitigations? Are there any?
Wow, that's
a lot of questions
That's a complicated
there.
question.
Yeah. Take what you want.
Brad is up on this. I can take a couple stabs on it, but
Why don't you start?
who wants to go first here?
Was it justified?
Was the hype
Yes.
justified? Well, one was justified because the only way to really get a lot of these companies to get off their butts and fix this is for all consumers and businesses to collectively scream. So suddenly it's the biggest threat in the world. Have there actually been any Spectre meltdown attacks that have been reported? That, not that I know of, but believe me, if people said, "Oh, this is a minor, not minor exploit, we can fix this later on," nobody would have addressed it. There are a lot of fixes. I think Intel actually went all the way back to Sandy Bridge, Arendelle, Clarkdale, Core 2. They went all the way back to Penryn, I think. They issued ways to mitigate the issue in all of those CPUs. A lot of the companies said, you know what?
Motherboard companies.
Yeah, motherboard companies said, you know what? You got this like 10-year-old motherboard you bought from us. Why don't you go buy another one? Because we're kind of sick of like supporting you. So it wasn't really evenly supported. All the OEMs, however, people who are suable, Dell, HP, Lenovo, they patched all the way back as far as they could go. So like if you had an HP or a Lenovo or a Dell system, you got patches even if you had an ancient POS. So that fixed it. There were some things that Microsoft could do with mitigations to reduce it. I think they sort of opted not to do it everywhere because it was sort of uneven. The Linux community being smaller, probably easier to focus on things. They did probably use some of those mitigations that didn't go across the board. So
Without BIOS updates?
yeah, there were ways to address it. Remember, there was one way to address it. You would have to preload the mitigations before the OS loaded, and there were ways to do it, but I think it's just kind of decided, you should go buy something new.
Well, his second spot, what processors implemented correct architecture and not mitigations? Are there any?
I think
they're starting to roll out, right? Aren't they starting to roll out now?
They've sort of addressed some of them. I mean, good Lord, it's like a matrix of things that have been supported. Some of the 8th gen parts actually had it. Whiskey Lake has some of the corrections, mitigations. Remember, I think there's a lot of incorrect language that is around this. Everybody said this is a flaw, right? I disagree with calling this a flaw from the beginning, because you know what? I built a lock. I never really expected somebody to come up with a crowbar and pry that lock off, right? I didn't expect it, because normally people don't walk around with a 3-foot crowbar. These were exploits. These were like, holy smokes. If we actually do this, we can break into this lock that nobody ever thought about. That's not a flaw necessarily, because you can't engineer against all things. And this one thing, remember, this is the beginning. People are going to continually look at new ways to exploit systems. These are all exploits. They're not really necessarily flaws. So where was I again? I got lost there.
Is there any other architectures that have not had the mitigations, done it right?
Oh, is there anything that has? Whiskey Lake, I think, is the only thing that has it. Some of the 9th gen parts that are coming out now have some of it. Some of it's in hardware, some of it's, firmware, software. So,
all right.
Anything new, you're okay.
As far as it being like overblown, remember that all these major companies worked on this issue and chose to announce it in the middle of CES, where it would get as little hype as possible. And they spent months working on these fixes. There's a reason for that. I mean, it's not, even though it hasn't, we haven't seen a crazy wave of Spectre and Meltdown malware, it was a big deal. I think the fact that the browser makers immediately pushed out software updates to shut that down made a big difference, because if that hadn't happened, that would have been, where you'd see a lot of vulnerability, I think.
Do you think it was overhyped, though, in a lot of ways?
I don't. I think it was very much hyped. I think the reason that so many major companies, organizations, operating systems, browser makers, NVIDIA, hardware makers, everybody was addressing this is because it really is an issue. And they concertedly, fixed it as soon as they could, to the extent that they could.
Brad, why are you covering up AMD's downfall?
Chill.
Haven't got my check yet.
Dang
it. That's the not made up, but that is somebody obviously very questionable company that said that there was serious flaws in AMD chips, and a lot of people got very angry over that.
All right, a couple more questions. Trolling Thunder has a question for Brad. Does a RTX 2070 make sense for 1440p ultra-wide gaming?
Yes. 2070 would be great at that. 2070 is about $500. Yep, I'm trying to remember. I was just looking at a bunch of different ones. Yeah, that would make sense for that. That'd make a lot of sense for that. If you really wanted to, it depends on how high the refresh rate is. If it's very high refresh rate, you're going to want to bump it up. A 2080 would make more sense if it's ultra high refresh. But if it's a 60 hertz monitor, then 2070 should do you good.
Cool. In the last question, we've had a lot of people asking who this lady is here with me, and it's my boss. And every time I tell them it's my boss, they say, "Oh, well, you should ask this question. Can I get a raise?" Yeah, right?
Is that a good question? No, Adam.
Oh, man,
She's going to say, you know what? We were going to give you a raise, but Gordon asked to buy this Core i9-9990XE.
Dang it. All that money went to
XE.
That CPU. All right.
$3,324.08. There you go.
Yeah, that's not bad. All right. As long as I get to share it with you.
No.
Oh, dang it. All right. Well, that's it. That's the show. We did it.
That's the show.
And we got your questions.
Episode 90. We've got 10 more till 100.
Unless you count 0.
Yeah.
We did a 0 episode.
You can count 0. Add 0 to 90, it's still 90.
Yep,
oh, yeah, you're right.
Boom. Done. Easy.
But is that the 100th episode?
I'm not going that far down the rabbit hole, man.
Yeah. We're going to go by the number. When it hits 100, that's when we celebrate 100.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we should do something fun. If anyone has any ideas, put them in our Discord. Yeah, please.
Okay.
And Brad needs to put in our Discord too.
I need to get
Okay,
that.
I got you.
All right, let's get out of here. I'm hungry.
All right. Check back next week for your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd for audio listeners. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Send questions and comments to the Full Nerd at PCWorld.com. Also check out our Discord channel. And if you're going to iTunes, because iTunes, make sure you leave a review for us. Every time you do, Adam gets a raise. I'm making that up. It's not true at all. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Adios, Internet.
And Adam will hit the off switch.
Somebody in the chat just said I'm the second best to Elena, so I'll take that. Elena is pretty cool. See you later.